Welcome back to Wellness Wave Radio. Thanks for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name is Phil George. I'm a clinical biochemist, certified personal trainer, and a health coach. Please remember, everything we discuss on the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. But Jim, we're not going to talk about health today. What are we going to talk about today, Jim?
We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about tennis. And as you know, tennis is one of the healthiest sports around. And in May, we all play. In fact, on the way out, my son said, "Dad, you should be playing tennis. It's such a beautiful day," instead of talking about tennis. But I love talking, as you know. And you'll kick me.
I do it for a living. Yeah. I do talking. But wait, let's go back to the health part of it.
Yes.
So, Jim, how much younger are you biologically? Guys, there's a chronological age and a biological age. So chronological, for the listeners, is how old you are in years, and biological, how old you are in your body. So how much younger are you, Jim?
I'm 8 years younger than my chronological age.
That's correct, because we tested you.
And you tested me, and you tested yourself.
Yeah.
And you broke all records.
Well, we're not going to talk about me.
Okay.
Yeah. And we know we talked before, and there's studies done. People that play paddle sports for some reason, and this actually was in the New York Times. People that play paddle sports like tennis, on the average, they're 5 years younger. So this is, and a reason is, this is my theory. Let me see if you agree with this. My theory is because, first of all, you're getting exercise, and that's so important. But the second thing, it's a very social game. So you go in, you see your friends, you go this, and this, because, they're saying now, being isolated and not having friends and community, it's like smoking, 5 or 6 cigarettes a day. So you're getting a double benefit.
Yes, and you mentioned community. And when you asked for a couple pictures, I sent about 70. And you know what? All the pictures, were, I was in a picture on most of them, but there were other people. And there were different people. So of the 7,500 pictures I sent you, boy, no wonder my phone is all logged up. But my point is, your point is, it's a community. You meet new people. When I retired from teaching, one of the fellow teachers said, "Well, what are you going to do now? Who are you going to have for friends?" And I have more friends now, by far, than any time in my life. And I'm not the only one.
But I'm going to look into, I have another theory on this. I wonder, too, if tennis helps with the cognitive decline. This is what I'm thinking. Because think about it. First of all, you got to follow that ball over the net. You got to figure out where it's going. You got to run here. You got to go there. So your brain is constantly working. Before and a normal, as you get into your 60, even past 40. You may not, you're not going to have an opportunity to be, where's the ball going and looking at this, so your brain is going to be working. So I bet you, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find out if there's a correlation. You like that word correlation? That's a fancy word. if basically there's a correlation between the tennis and also if the less cause of Alzheimer's and dementia.
I think you're on the right track. And as we both know, tennis will test you emotionally, physically, and mentally. You can be the best athlete in the world, but if you can't use the brain to choose the right shot at the right time, Novak is famous for that. Another gentleman by the name of Monfils, when he showed up on the scene, he was the most athletic, but he didn't win any Grand Slams because tennis is managing all three. What are you doing between points? Dr. Jim Lair, who just passed away, he and his pal, Jack Roppel, they just talked, what do you do between points? That's when you manage your brain. That's when you use your brain. You get into routines. And that works in the business arena also.
It helps you. So have you ever heard this story, Chris Everett? Do you remember this tennis player, Hannah Manlikova?
Absolutely.
Okay. she was the up and coming, and she was going to be the next Martina Navratilova. They were saying she's from the Czech, same area, hugely talented, and Chris would consistently beat her like a rug, beat her over and over again. And Chris, by her own admission, was not the most athletically gifted person, okay? But mentally, she was so tough. In fact, there was one match she was playing, and I guess there was something behind her or something like that, and she didn't see it. And they said, you know, Chrissy, did you see that? She was so locked in. Yeah. She was picking that. She was so locked in. And the other thing we talked about, this relate actually to all athletes. We talked about this, is that, you know, you miss a shot, and what happens? You put your head down, you walk back like this. That gives your opponent, I got him. So what do the great players do, Jim?
Well, the body language is so. In fact, I think it was Novak. One of the things he does as he's going, he admitted it, as he's going to sit down between points, he can't help but peeking at his opponent and seeing if his opponent, just by the body language, is the shoulders hunched over, is the head down, so. Absolutely, unequivocally, and I was like a buzzard. I have stories of people who get so bent out of shape playing somebody like me who gets the ball back. If you get the ball back 3 or 4 times, you increase your chances of winning. My son and I hit the ball back 268 times, and he was 13 at the time. And I've seen people playing him who would just throw their rackets, one threw their racket over the fence. So my point is, it's the body language. You don't want your opponent to know that. In fact, there's a story I could tell you about a gentleman who's I don't know if you're ready for the story, but attorney Mike Ehrlich, who doesn't lose in the legal arena. If you look at his advertisement, he just says, hey, I win. And he wins all the time. But when he met a fellow tennis player that I coached, Don Canoia Jr., he met him in a legal arena. He just says, hey, I have a bone to pick. I remember you. You beat me. I played for Shepherd Hill. Of course, Donnie knows him. I played for Shepherd Hill. You played for Southbridge. And that Coach Kane, what he did, he got in my brain. I said, and Don Canoia said to him, wait a minute, I played you, not Coach Kane. I don't want to, what Coach Kane? Yeah, but well, we worked together, Donnie and I. This gentleman had the greatest ground strokes. FanDuel would say he's favored to beat Canoia 8-1. But I noticed right away he went for his serves. When I say went for it, he was blasting his serves, but he wasn't always getting it in. And the second serve, he would double fault on occasion. So guess what I told Don? Don, move up to the service line. Put a little pressure. Then I had to move back. Then when we, after the...
Let me interrupt you because listeners may not understand tennis. So the service line is kind of halfway between the baseline and the back. So normally if somebody has a big serve, what most people do, they're going to stay way back because you need enough time. That coming at you 100 plus miles an hour, you're going to stand back. So what Jim was doing, he was psyching out this other guy. So he had his player go right up close, and the guy's looking. This guy's crazy. I'm going to kill him. So what happens is you're going to serve even harder.
Yes.
And it gets in the head because you're mixing them up.
And he was double faulting. And that was a good thing. So, and it was an ego thing. If you have a big serve, like attorney Michael Ehrlich, who was on the O'Reilly show, by the way, bragging about winning a certain case in Worcester, Mass. But I said to Don, I don't want him to stop going for his serves. If he gets an ace, look impressed. You know, it may say to him, nice serve, great serve. I just wanted him to continue because if he backed off, didn't double fault, got his serves in, he was a master. He was one of the best in Worcester County, and he's one of the best lawyers. But that's the story of managing, and I think coaching does play a role.
No doubt that the whole thing is, again, Bill Belichick used to say, You take their top player and make sure that this person is not going to beat us. We're going to double, triple team him. What I used to do, because the listeners, I used to coach the Becker College men's team, and what I would do is, some people would call this poor sportsmanship, but anyway. So what I like you, I'd watch the other team and see what's happening. And if I saw that they had a weakness, I would say that most people it's the backhand. Not always, but a lot of times it's the backhand. You keep hitting to the back. That's his weakness. Keep hitting to the backhand. But what happens, the other thing to do, because in tennis you do every odd game, you cross over. So you have to kind of, see each other when you're crossing over. And what would happen is, let's say I was playing you, Jim, okay? And all of a sudden you're playing out of your mind. And let's say your backhand is especially strong today. I go, Jim, your backhand is so good. What are you doing differently in your backhand? And he starts thinking. Because what happens, the stroke has to be natural. You can't be thinking about it. If you start thinking about it, Vic Brady used to say that, you can't change it. It's got to be a normal, muscular thing. And so there's these little sportsmanship things you can do.
It's all legal.
It's legal.
It's all legal.
But that's where the mental toughness comes in any sport. But I think especially
mental and emotional. I think they go together. And Chris Evert, I think they called her the Ice Maiden. You didn't know whether she won, she lost.
Couldn't tell the difference.
As long as you put, and that's a good lesson for young people.
Beyond Borg. Beyond Borg's the other one.
Borg is another one. Coach Wooden with basketball. If you leave the court after a game and somebody walks in the door, I don't want them to know whether we won or lost. Because if you give 100%, do your best to become the best, you are a winner. So don't put your head down. Even when you win, don't celebrate unless you win the big championships. But I think tennis is a challenge. I thought for a while tennis wouldn't be as popular. You had pickleball coming in, and then I noticed that tennis is a difficult sport, one of the most difficult sports around.
What I used to say to the people I was coaching when I come in, I would say, tennis is a difficult game to play even poorly.
Yes.
Poorly. The second thing I would say to them, tennis is an unnatural act. Because if it feels good, you're probably doing wrong. I mean, if you just think it, I remember this, I had a whole group of people, and I had this grandmother in my thing, and she just started off, and she had her husband, who was very athletic. And the husband would beat her all the time. And I saw the husband play, but he would just play with muscle. No good form. Just using his athleticism. So what I said to her, I said, by the time I get through with you, you're going to beat him, and I can guarantee you're going to beat him because I showed her the correct strokes, and he didn't have a good backhand and everything else, and he was trying to kill it. And sure enough, he beat her. So again, you can't really learn how to play tennis or golf on your own. You really need somebody to teach you.
And it's best to start young. I noticed, and I spoke with Alex Wesley. She's in charge of marketing for New England Tennis. And by the way, the headquarters is right here in Westboro, Mass.
Wow.
But we have programs starting up in May. Why? Because May is the National Tennis Month. But here in New England, right locally, we have Oxford with Coach Zajac, 6-week course on Saturdays. We have Coach Adams in Auburn. And then in Sturbridge, we have another coach teaching young people tennis. And that's the time to start. We have more young people entering tennis. Tennis has been actually increasing in participation in the last 5 years. We're up to about 28 million people playing tennis. And it's coming on strong. This one young lady, Mount Greylock, I was just going to mention, 7th grader, wins the Western Mass tournament. 7th grader.
How old is a 7th grader? 15?
7th grader would be about 13.
Wow.
13 years old, and now she's going to the States. Now, and I was talking to another coach of an athlete as a freshman. This was cross country. I was down in Block Island. But some of the parents are already thinking of the NIL. Maybe. You can make money. You can get a free education. But nowadays you can get a free education plus free money if you're
right.
good.
That's
But if you
right.
start early, like Chris Lewitt has these prodigies. I've been up to his camp in Vermont. They're 9 years old, 10, 11, 12. That's the time to start. So the elementary school program in Auburn that I know of, Oxford and Sturbridge, that would be something for a parent and a child to consider.
The other thing, what I find is, like you, I play tennis, I belong to tennis clubs and everything else. And a lot of people, in addition to what you're saying, you can get a free boat to college if you get in there. So it's a great sport to take up. The other thing, also, to advance your career, most people think golf is really a business game because you go on the golf course, with some big, big shot, and you get to know him and everything else. But I think tennis may even be a better business one because what happened is when I went up to I belonged to the Paxton Tennis Club. I was, given tennis lessons and things like that. And I was, I grew up for a single mom. I had no money, the rest of the stuff. So I was just a poor kid. But I get to rub elbows with these big executives. That I remember Dr. Dick Ewells that owned the Hadley Medical Center. He's living in Florida. And anyway, so I get to know him and his wife, Lila, and went back and forth with that. And by knowing him, he introduced other people. So I get to know a lot of people that normally, Jim, I would never meet in normal life.
Yeah.
But one of the things, like you, I was one of the best tennis players at the club. So people wanted to play with me, because, I could fill in. But I get to meet a lot of very successful people with tennis. And the other thing, I tried to golf, but I didn't like golf. You're riding around. But tennis, you're running, you're hitting balls, you're doing this. The other thing I said, Jim, when with the teenage boys, I used to say to them, tennis is one of the only games you get to play with girls with short skirts.
Another thing too is, as you know me, I'm a little bit obsessed about improving. And I send away for more gadgets. And I have every gadget that will assist me in my mission to become the best that I can become. But I just want to mention...
we should get that. How's your hand holding up?
Well, yes, my hand, and the bandage. I was down in Block Island. I didn't tell you this story, but there was guess what I brought down to Block Island? I practiced in my room. I brought this to the court. Then after you use this, you switch to a racket. By the way, this is for little kids.
Oh, yeah.
My 4.5-year-old Lily, granddaughter, uses this one. This is my mother's racket.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Phil, we've come a long way.
But we're
okay.
going to do that. So
Okay.
one of the things that Jim is his great wife Judy. She got great patience with him. Anyway, he'd be in the house. The ball would come off the thing. He'd hit it to the window.
Hit the
hit it up
ceiling.
against all this stuff. And so what happened is Jim's going to introduce. This is brand new, right, Jim?
Brand new from some gentleman in Italy. He's got a long last name. I've been corresponding with him. And to be honest, I love it so much that I told him, when I like something, I'm a big Google reviewer. If I like something, I'll let you know. I love this swing because it gives me auditory feedback. You and I talk about feedback. You showed me a few of the emails, people commending you, praising you. Mm-hmm. We all love it. We all love praise. So I love this. I sent it to him. He says, hey, send me videos. I sent him more videos of me using it. And then he says, why don't you just tell anyone interested, put down, when you buy it, Jim 20, and they get a $20.
20% off.
They get $20 off.
Whoa.
$20 off.
Whoa. Okay.
Now,
well, the other thing, we're going to give you a lot of information, but if you just email me, philgeorge@charter.net, I'll get it over to Jim and to the UST or whatever happens. So either one of these. So why don't you?
I got to demonstrate real, because we may run out of time because I talk a lot. But basically, why it works for me, the pro forehand has changed. It has evolved in the last 5-10 years. And with the pro forehand in the old days, racket back. Remember this, Phil?
I taught it. I taught that over and over again.
Listen to this one. Racket back, bend your knees. That'll be $50, please. Yeah. Now that it's not going to work. The game is too fast. You can't take it way back. So now, if you listen for the click, that tells me it's clicking. Where's it clicking? In front. Where do you get the effortless forehand? You get it in front. Keep your eye on the ball, Mr. Federer. Okay. So, and then on the serve, it'll click if you pronate correctly. I've been working on my serve where I don't have the rack. This is called the racket drop, the perfect racket drop. I've been working for 40 years. I have a softball that I use in my backyard. It hits the window. My wife she's used to it now. So at one time she thought I was going to break the window. I haven't broken any windows. But after I use this, see the pronation? See the sound, hear the click?
So that way you don't have to hire somebody really expensive like Coach Kane. You could just buy this and that snap. And what it does, it lets you know you're doing it correctly.
Then after I do it, I take a regular racket, and I wouldn't take my, this little racket, and so basically, at Gym 20, you get a $20 discount. They want to give me, and I don't know if I'm going to refuse, a small commission. I have to tell the audience.
You can give it to charity.
There you go.
PhilGeorge@charter.net. That's the charity.
This is called the Dragonet Swing. It's worth a look. But I've got more gadgets. In fact, let me just show you this one, which is similar. This one here is called Spivo. I told you I get carried away. So this also.
You hear that?
You hear that? I'm sure you can hear it. It reminds me of the Masters golf when they have the birds in the background.
Yeah.
I said, are they putting bird music in because you can? It's set up like this. Once in a while, this might pop off, but I like this too. And then when you go out there and start hitting the ball. But I like you know who was using this? Myrna Andreeva, a young pro. I saw her in the locker room, and she's running around, and she's doing this, and she's doing the backhand, and she's running here. Well, this is a good way to warm up. I take this to the court, and I warm up with it. So that's what I wanted to.
Funny you mentioned that because they showed Sinner, who's one of the top tennis players in the world now, and it showed him and before he goes out there in the locker room, and he's dancing around and he's doing. It's just like a basketball player. They're going out there and they're doing their different things. So again, this is going to save you a ton of money on.
I mean,
you go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell you, I've got a library of books. A lot of the information on how to hit a ball is in a book, but getting the feeling of hitting the ball the right way with the biomechanics all, in a sequence, this to me helps me. Somebody else could probably read, you name it, could read a book on, let's say, Oscar Wagner, which I'm certified by also, besides a PTR, Chris Lewitt. I mean, you can read everything. I'm not saying these books won't help you, but some people need that auditory feedback.
Yeah, you need the auditory, and you just need the feel. And what happens is, and you really don't know if you're doing it right or not. But with this, it kind of, and there's something in tennis called muscle memory. All sports, I'm sorry, not just tennis, all sports. What happens is there's an expression basically called neurons that fire together, wire together. It creates a pathway. Like, remember, Jim, when you first learned how to tie your shoes, like 2 years ago?
5 years
way
ago.
Way back when. It's how hard it was, But then, now you could be half asleep, just the muscle memory. Okay, the other thing, remember how difficult it was to learn how to drive a car, especially a stick shift back in the old days? I mean, you go back. But now, again, you get in the car, you don't think anymore because you got the muscle memory. Yeah. It's kind of like if you think about like in a forest where it's very the bushes and stuff. You keep walking the same path, it becomes easier. So you're creating a pathway, and once you do it over and over again, when I used to teach tennis, Jim, I would say to them, look at, I could get you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You could still hit the same forehand. You're not thinking anymore. It's locked in. Yeah. That's why. But it's also important to develop habits early.
And it's good habits, deliberate. I think I sent that out to my friends in Italy who invented it. I said deliberate practice. If you practice it the wrong way, and you don't have the proper mechanics, guess what? You're gonna be good at hitting it the wrong way. You're going to be able to hit it, so you get some.
You'll get to a certain level.
Yes.
What I used to do, Jim, when I brought somebody in and they had a wrong stroke, I would say to them, if you're willing to get a lot worse before you get better, because people before that you beat, they're going to beat you until you can unlearn. I know your opinion. It's much harder to unlearn something, get away from the bad stroke, and then learn something. But from scratch, it's a lot easier.
And that's why working with the youth, with youngsters, if I'm working with adults, and I work with a lot of adults, it's imprinted almost, the bad habits. And as you said, now we have to unlearn this, and they're not willing. I mean, they always resort back to what's comfortable, what they've been doing. That's why my racket drop, full disclosure, isn't the greatest racket drop. And but it's getting better. And anybody who's involved in any arena, the whole objective is to get better. You're not going to be perfect. I'm never going to be a pro, but my mission is fun.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Please do.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you about this guy here. So he played in something called an open tournament, and which means it's open to anybody. There's no level. And he went in there and he was playing. And he got to the next round, and he's got an 18-year-old kid from Bancroft.
Well, we want to get too personal.
Okay. Anyway, so this kid is a good tennis player. He's on the tennis team. He's a good tennis player. So this kid's thinking, to me, I could be wrong, I got this old guy here. No problem. And what happened, Jim?
Well, I had to go into my ditty bag of shots, drop shots, lobs. Mixing it up, and on clay, it's like a chess match. So at that particular day, it was a close match. It was in a tiebreaker that I won. But I'm happy to win. I like to win. You don't always win. I think it was Jimmy Connors says, but my best, the first thing I'd like to do is to win and play tennis. The second favorite thing in the whole world is to play tennis and lose. The point is you're playing a great game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The whole point is, even if you lose, you're getting good exercise, you're getting out there, you're doing things, the whole thing. And I think tennis is really good at, Jim, is again, where you can play with your wife, with your daughter, you could just play mixed doubles, you can do all that stuff. It's such a great social game. I think that's the other thing. So, Jim, we're coming towards the end. So, if people want to reach you, or you want to say something first, we have time.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, and if you want more information, they can contact you.
PhilGeorge@charter.net.
Or Google playtennisnewengland.com, or I just put down USTA.com. This is nationwide. I just talked about Oxford, Sturbridge, Auburn, because that's where we are. But Hit the Fit Day is May 19th. You know what that cardio tennis but it's a big month for tennis, and tennis is growing. And I hope to be back next May talking about the greatest game in the history of mankind, tennis.
And again, if you ever want to get into it, or even better, get your kids into it, now's the time, because the USTA, they're giving out a lot of free stuff. They want to get you in. They want to get you involved in it. Jim is heavily involved in it. And again, if you email me, PhilGeorge@charter.net, I'll shoot it over to Jim. Jim's, and if you need, Jim's taking selected, clients. If you want to maybe have some lessons, right? You're still taking a few people.
Yes, but and you get discounts during the course. I just bought a case of Marathon pen balls, which I arrived from Block Island, and my sister-in-law said, More tennis balls? Because I've got 200 tennis balls. But I said, when you play a match, you're playing with new tennis balls. So I just ordered it. I got $30 off from Penn. Wilson, 40% off. Head, 40% off.
The other thing is with Jim, he's gonna put you to the right gear, what to take. We're coming up to the end of the show, Jim. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'll send it over to Jim, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.